Welcome, everyone. Okay. As people are
Is that music playing?
coming on camera, I know in certain places it's hot. Make sure you have your water, grab a snack, do whatever you can to stay engaged. Quick water break, restroom break, do that as folks are coming into the room. And we'll start in just a moment. Okay. We ready, Catherine? Yes. All righty. Well, welcome to the Strategy and Solidarity Global Summit 2025. DEI was never enough. My name is Jamila Thompson, and I am your host for this wonderful session. What if it hadn't happened? Unmasking through neurodivergence, collapse, and the will to be seen. I'm so excited to be here today. I am part of this amazing strategy and solidarity collective, which is a collective of consultants, coaches, and practitioners in diverse fields united in our dedication to holistic strategies for achieving racial and social justice and creating thriving futures for all life on our planet. We encourage you, if you can, be on camera. We understand that there are circumstances that might warrant you not to be, but if you can be on camera, because it's much easier when we can see your beautiful faces to be in community today. I have the extreme pleasure of introducing our presenter today, Catherine Watkins, who is a trauma-informed educator, memorist, and ritualist whose work centers unmasking resistance and healing through the lens of Black, neurodivergent, and gender fluid identity. Founder of Shadows and Syncopation, Catherine blends sacred writing, storytelling, and AI-assisted reflection to guide others towards truth-telling and liberation. Her projects include Bones and Mirrors, The Tism, and spoken word performances that refuse to sanitize pain. For 27 years, Catherine survived and subverted systems as a high school teacher while privately navigating undiagnosed neurodivergence and radicalized gaslighting. She now curates experiences and creative tools for those longing to live unmasked. Her current work uh, partners with Saul, her AI mirror, to archive, unravel, and remember the stories that once went untold. Please join me in welcoming Catherine Watkins. And I'll hand it over to you, Catherine.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Let me just say there are people here I haven't seen in such a long time. So, hello, Sakura. Hello, and Melanie, and Lisa, and Niles, Teresa, my mentor. Oh my gosh. Who do we have? Lourdes, girl. Thank you very much. Darnell. And Alson's here. Oh, you guys, this is unbelievable. Thank you, Teresa, just for coming. Who else do I got? Karen, girl, I haven't seen you forever. And Twee, oh, you guys, you are making my heart. And my baby girl, Stephanie. We gonna be talking about Stephanie, so I'm glad you're here, girl. And Amanda, if I missed anybody, just thank you all for being here. This is going to be so healing. All right, so let me see if I can share my screen. You guys all see my thing?
You can see it.
Good. Okay, I'm hoping I'm not gonna mess up on the chat. Trying to make that visible. Okay, so if there's things coming up, if someone could let me know about the chat until I could figure out how to bring that up for my visual, I would absolutely appreciate that.
Will do.
All right, thank you. All right, so I did drop something in the chat so that you guys can have discussions among yourselves, which I do not see as rude. I love that, so please. So welcome. My name is Catherine Watkins, and this session is about what if it hadn't happened. This is part story, part body mapping, part mirror. This story needs to be told because I was not the only one going through this unnecessary pain. There are many, some I left behind, stuck in patterns and fear runs deep. So, but the joy I get from helping others and rising them up along with me, rising them up with me along the way, watching them grow and prosper is my complete happiness. So there's a reason you're here, whether subconsciously or consciously, but know this is for you. We carry in silence and solitude, which has its place, but truly this is when we need to rekindle community. And this will drag on longer than necessary, or this will drag on longer than necessary. No more suffering alone. We are all carrying bags of issues. Some there is so there's a space to unburden, to share, and to bond. This just now this is just an hour, but if something reaches you and you want to keep going, I'm here. This doesn't have to be a one thing, and I'm hoping it's not going to be a one thing. I love going out to lunches and meeting up with people and just talking it out. But we can also do online things. So we can unfold things together. When I saw the call for proposals for by strategies and solidarity, I was so excited to offer my story, energy, and experiences. But being neurodivergent, there are so many layers and depths I struggled choosing. My son Moses simply said, "What if it hadn't happened? What would you have kept doing?" And I was like, "What the hell?" So he said, "What would have become of you if you didn't stand up for yourself?" And I'm like, "Damn, that's where it is." So that question unlocked the center of everything. He held space for me in a way that I helped to see myself. And he encouraged me to record everything that we were saying so I wouldn't forget, because I forget a lot of things. Um, I'm sharing my experiences in hopes that you'll see part of yourself in my journey, because it's not solo work. We've been taught to swallow our tears, to stay quiet, to stay strong, to stay small, but that silence lets systems keep doing what they do, misreading us, dismissing us, using us. I hope that you will walk away from this talk. You will feel empowered and inspired to stir shit up in your relationships, in your talents, in your and in your work. Where does the pattern need to be disrupted? Because let's be honest, we are not going to find it in spaces that plaster diversity and equity inclusion on the walls. That language was not made for us. DEI only exists because people like us stir things up to begin with. And now it's being whitewashed again. They're not listening. So so we will do this work in organization, community, um, and community to ensure we got each other's back. Let's see, what am I doing here? All right. So I am gonna put in here, just because I do talk really fast. Oh no, I need I need the chat.
Hey, Catherine, would you like me to share the slides for you so you have a little bit more space on your desktop?
Baby girl, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, oh, you did it. Thank you. Okay. So, I've just been shared with you guys um what let me do that. Okay, so I just shared with you guys the slides just in case. So in this part, I want to address what began to, oh, you know what? I might need control though, because I have things to click through. Hold on one second. Let me see. Oh, I don't want to take up my time. See, I do this. I teach online now, and I do this. I do this online. Okay, let's try. I'm gonna try one more time. Okay. Anywho's, in this first part, I want to address what began to mask me up before I could consent to such disguises to survive. I realized I first realized I was being misread when my mother and others began calling me overdramatic, exaggerating, and weird. That language didn't describe me, but it shaped me. To avoid conflict, I became mama's little helper. For the first 32 years of my life, I was good Kate, quiet, useful, off the radar. I learned that being a statue kept me safe. I became a professional people pleaser. So saying no felt dangerous. I brought anger at home, at school, and even at work. So I stayed agreeable. But beneath all of it, I was a multiracial, neurodivergent child, unseen, unread, and slowly erased. Okay, so with this, oh, I want to share. Okay, so I have something that I'll be sharing later on about the anti-miscegenation laws in the United States. And so if it wasn't for Mildred Jeter, who was Black and Indigenous, and Richard Loving, a white man fighting for their right to marry, my parents would have never legally been allowed to marry in Texas. So the Lovings fought from 1958 until 1967. Texas didn't accept it until 1969. This is why we also have Juneteenth, right? So just in time for my sister to be born, but that did not mean that we were safe. The KKK made my family know that they were not happy about this, that we were not welcomed. They let their presence be known in in dangerous and threatening ways. With Martin Luther King's 1963 speech, I Have a Dream, people thought that the dream had come true in children like me. I even believed it, right? So that line that says, one day little Black boys and Black girls will be able to join their hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. That line was supposed to be proof. And my sister and I were being born from that swirl became the symbol. And so proof that we were supposed to be the proof that racism had been solved, proof that the civil rights had done its job, but nothing was fixed. And I drank the Kool-Aid all the way through childhood, even when I moved to Oregon in 2001. Why did I move here? But I'm here. People projected progress onto me without even seeing my pain. They used my existence as evidence without even asking what it was like to live it. I came in as a blank slate, already wired with a neurotype science hadn't even cared to understand. Add race on top of that, and the road was already being paved with misunderstanding. I was born with the laws changed, but the world hadn't. And that's not, sorry. My existence is now legal, but not protected, and still not embraced, and still not safe. So even before I knew who I was, my body was already building a language, one made of touch, scent, textures, and stillness. They thought I was zoning out, but I was studying survival. The moments of sensory joy that I remember was touch. I remember rubbing the legs of my mom's horse with the grain of his hair and then against it for the opposite sensation. Rubbing my little afro could steal time from me as I was lost in the variety of curls on my crown. Before being in a bath always calmed me down, so I would have more than most kids, but the smell of soap made me so happy. I now indulge in scents anytime I get. A scalding hot bath to regulate could calm me in the tub for hours as an adult. I don't have words for these since I didn't have words for these sensations, but having a stuffed animal to pet or a soft blanket kept me happy. As I grew, I was called sensitive, kind and thoughtful. It was truthful and factual. These parts of me have always been present within me. But as the world grew colder, I got older, the more I learned to sparingly show these parts to avoid predators. But these features I could never hide, no matter how much I tried to mask. So I was vulnerable due to my softness. I spaced out a lot, but it was because I followed all thoughts and curiosities. And when I was lost in sensory joy, I experimented on them to get all the feelings out of it any way that I could. As I grew and people grew meaner, spacing out became detachment, where exploration of thoughts and sensations halted, and I was stuck in the hypervigilance focus of survival, shrinking myself as small as possible to hope I wasn't seen, but I was always seen now. Now to reclaim the softness, I entertain my inner child. I would whatever she would like, or what she would love, I give it to her. Sometimes it's stickers, other times it's scented baths with salts and essential oils. I burn as soon as I wake up. And throughout the day, anything that makes my body feel good gets the attention because I refuse to neglect myself any longer. So there was a version of me that stayed quiet, not because I had nothing to say, but because people speaking stopped, because speaking stopped feeling safe. Oops. I didn't talk until I was 4 years old, but I was very verbal. I did grunts and hums and explosions of excitement. However, as I got older, those were no longer age appropriate, especially in public. So my parents, my teachers, and peers let me know when I was being weird. I was only in speech therapy for a little while, maybe like 4 or 6 months. Due to domestic violence and homelessness, we could no longer continue that. So I held on to the skills that I learned, clapping out syllabic words, my tongue tripped over, but that was inappropriate. So I would struggle in public, pronouncing words I stuttered upon as I tried to do the right emphasis on the right syllable. Uh, Mike, Austin Powers with that whole right emphasis on the syllable, that messed me up for so long after he said that. So it was a rhythm. Even to this day, I clap my hands, or I clap in my head, but still slip on words, which I still harbor embarrassment. When I do, and when I do stutter, I feel like it makes me look stupid. So I'm reducing these behaviors to prevent reprimandation, curving my ability to work on these skills so that maybe I wouldn't struggle as a 50-year-old woman. Maybe not, though, because it is my disability. So who knows? The struggle's real, right? So it's really about me trying to deal with my embarrassment about it. However, I began disappearing once I entered public school, where I was the center of attention for my myriad of oddities that didn't match the overwhelmingly neurotypical white spaces. Let's see, I was forced to I'm sorry. It messed me up with the spaces that I had to learn to be in, even though I didn't want to be in there. That's what I'm trying to say. Everything became awkward and strange. I was missing things that everyone seemed to understand and do without even being told. I was strange it was strange, and it made me feel like I didn't belong because I could never figure it out. Even as hyper aware as I was always missing something and then being called weird, stupid, or dumb from adults and children. Now, as an adult, I see how everything I did up until my early teens was reactive protection to try to blend in. Now, luckily, I was around in the 80s, and that brought in so much variety of styles that my desire to wear men's vests and suit jackets with boots and a hat on, you know, those students, right? That was me. And I thought I looked cool. I did look cool. But then the 80s passed, and I had a crush in high school who said that I looked weird, that I always dressed in black, I looked angry, and I looked like I was going to kick someone's ass, which I was always ready to. And so I explored colors and I practiced facial expressions in the mirrors. I would literally spend hours trying to soften my face and chill, have this smile that I use in pictures sometimes. And so you can kind of tell when I'm masking with that. And this became practical for when I started teaching, you know, because I looked intimidating. And so by the time I began teaching, looking like a 17-year-old, I decided to start wearing floral dresses, and I bought every kind they had. I found a cut that fit, and I understood Einstein's wardrobe because I had everything lined out. All right, but it was the same kind of dress, but I looked good in it. So this allowed me to get into mass. This allowed me to get into a mask as a grown ass woman teaching English because I felt like a child all the way through 40. There's got to be a better way than this. All right. So this is what they called me. All right. So race was always part of the story. Growing up, I heard the labels of mixed, mutt, Heinz 57, even mulatto. They were said like facts, sometimes jokes, but they all carried the same message. You're not one of us. You're some combination that needs meaning. And when I came to Oregon, those words weren't gone. They were revived like ghosts that had been just waiting. People said colored here in Oregon. Such a trip. It wasn't until it wasn't an accident, it was a memory this place never erased. Those words didn't ask about me. They told me who I was, what I wasn't, and where I could fit in, as well as how I could be treated. Once I figured out what was behind the where are you from? Where are you from? I stopped entertaining it, and that pissed people off because it wasn't curiosity. It was a demand to explain myself, my skin, my face, my existence, so they could be comfortable. So what they didn't notice was the quiet humming that got me scolded, the obsessive love of patterns, spinning, and repetition, how loud noises made my hands flinch, the daydreaming mistaken for disrespect, how I copied others to survive, the tears I saved for after school, my vocabulary outpacing my emotional regulation, that I was always working 3 times harder just to seem normal, and the joy I learned to mute to avoid being teased, how I memorized social scripts to avoid mistakes, and that I wasn't fine, I was performing fine. The first time I was called the N-word in Scappoose, during my first year of teaching, the admin said it wasn't an issue. Every piece of black literature I had read from the 1930s through the 1970s came floating into my mind, and I was scared of what happens when white folks feel comfortable using that word. So I straightened my hair, I stopped wearing ethnic clothes, I was teaching in the boondocks, and I needed to stay safe. My masking naturally progressed into performative whiteness. But one thing I couldn't mask was silence. When something was wrong, I spoke up. I couldn't sit quietly while racism played around me. And that's what made them uncomfortable. After 3 years, they told me I should transfer to a neighboring district that had more people like me. They told me to think of it like a bad marriage and that I would surely get out. They made it happen using their good old boys network. Since the new district had one of the largest populations of ethnically diverse students, I left excited. I thought I was going to be heading to the place where I could take some of these masks off and be my authentic self. All right, y'all. I'm learning how to navigate. Look at me, y'all. Putting it in the chat. Here we go. All right. So let's take a moment. I gave you guys a lot of information. We're going to go into Act 2. If you have anything that you want to say in the chat, I can now see it. I will try to talk, but a lot of times I might come back to it, or I'll read it later and probably reach out to you. So take a breath. That first part, that was the descent, the slow unraveling, the forgetting. But now we're heading into the storm. This next section is where things get louder, sharper, the system presses in, and the body starts to break. My delusion was that the new place would be different, but it was just the same in a different way. I thought I was walking into a district that practiced what it preached, each pillar of equity. But every time I did what they asked, especially with culturally relevant teaching, I got called into the principal's office while others didn't. I was called in for petty things. I was applying for higher positions because I'd been teaching for over 10 years, but to no avail, they would not let me rise up. Meanwhile, other teachers who were harming students, getting too friendly with our children, or pushing biased lessons, they got promoted. I wasn't the problem. I was the contradiction. I taught about reality and I challenged their religion, their racism, their comfort, and that made me dangerous. This wasn't just a job, it was who I was. But they didn't want me to rise. They wanted free labor from BIPOC staff and gave a thank you, maybe a gift card, hopefully a small stipend. That was their idea of equity. I didn't understand at the time, but I do now. My brain is wired for justice. My nervous system is tuned to morality. I couldn't betray what I knew, even when it was putting me in danger. So I kept speaking, and they kept watching, and they tried to push me out quietly, blocking every opportunity, but I didn't resign. I burned through. You saw a teacher holding it together. What you didn't see was how hard the crash was just to show up the next day. During this time, I realized something. My lower skilled classes, the ones no one checked in on, they were treated like a dumping ground. But those kids, they were neurodivergent, or they were disenfranchised, misunderstood, a combination of all of it. So I gave them everything: high engagement content, joy, sanctuary. They became my lighthouse. They helped me stay upright while the storm inside me was raging. But the real reason I didn't drown was because of Moses, my literal Moses. He pulled me through deserts. I never would have survived alone. I played with him until he passed out because he deserved my full attention. I was never hurt as a child, so I made sure he was, and made our house the place where his friends could finally be their full selves. And they're grown now, and they still come around, eating my food, laughing up the house, and sometimes just to rest and take a nap. They're 23 years old now. Moses' diagnosis of ADHD, dyslexia, and dysgraphia pushed me to learn everything I could, which then made me a better teacher. His struggles gave me purpose. His smiles kept me alive. However, when Trayvon Martin was murdered, and then George Floyd, and then too many others, I started to panic because my little boy wasn't going to be seen as a little cute boy. He would be seen as a threat, and that terrified me. I should have had that up. I'm sorry. I pretty much said everything. You don't really have to read it. We good. All right. So I'm going to drop this in the chat as well. So I want to take a few moments from a district event that that encouraged all these teachers of color to come up and speak our truths finally. I'm going to show you guys two clips. One is like a minute and a half. The other one's like 3 minutes. But these are the clips from Equity A-Bar Summit that other people in the district took and shared with some really unsavory people. And so this summit was supposed to be a mandatory experience where we were allowed to speak freely about how it was to be a teacher in the district and how we were showing up for our students. And so we were asked to speak freely, and many of us did. What you'll see here are moments that were vulnerable, powerful, and costly. What was meant to be a brave space became a battleground. Some of us faced backlash or silent punishment for saying what needed to be said. This was not about drama. This was about consequences, about how truth telling in a system not ready to listen can lead to silence, exits, or worse. These clips represent courage and the price we pay, the price that we often pay for it. So feel free to drop in the chat. If anything comes up to you as you watch, discuss amongst yourselves. I may not be able to respond live, but I will see and hold what you are saying. And Stephanie, baby girl, I'm showing it. You may need to boost your volume because the sound's a little strange.
But so many of our kids can.
I love what you said, Caitlin, because I'm going to say something that's not nice and not sweet, but it's true. If you're not evolving into an anti-racist educator, you're making yourself obsolete in this field of perfection. Our district is only getting browner and browner with our children. And so if, obviously you can't change your melody, all right? But you can change your mind so that you can actually function in a district that is full of BIPOC children. So if you're being resistant, I understand that, but you're going to have to eventually come to the light, because if you're going to keep with those old views of colonialism, it's going to lead to being fired, because you're going to be doing damage to our children, trauma. And so as we fire the teachers who sexually abuse our children, we will be firing the teachers who do racist things to our children and traumatize them. And while our district might not be completely on there, OEA is working on it. NEA is working on it. And so it's just a matter of time. So it's like you either evolve or dissolve. You've got to start along with us.
Sorry,
And then it gets a little bit more.
but so many of our kids can't.
I love what you said, Caitlin, because I'm going to say something that's not nice and not sweet, but it's true. Okay, we already did that one, right? If you're not evolving into an anti-racist educator.
Someone asked you chat for captions, if you could turn the captions on.
But so many of our kids can't.
Everybody should be able to turn the captions on. If you look at your menu bar, you might see a button that says CC, or it might be in the More menu with those 3 little dots. If you click in there, you should be able to turn your captions on.
I do apologize, you guys.
You're fine. You're fine.
Fearful of just being bold. Just do it. Use today, because so many people were here, so they know that we can't. It's a professional development, right? So if you didn't develop, then why are you here? You wasted your time and hours. So now use this. And so hey, you sit there
learned this and now I'm implementing it. I am a good educator and I care. Our students like really need us to like really stand up and they need to see it. They need to see it demonstrated and they can feel it. They can feel it. They see it in what you present to them and they deserve it. And so do colleagues. And Kaylin, oh my God, I just want to hug you, but you know, it's COVID and stuff. So we can't, but I give you a virtual hug for being vulnerable and hearing it in your voice and demonstrating it. And we are so grateful because we can talk about it, but I guarantee you, when 4 o'clock hits, I'm probably going to be in the bed with my Dove chocolate because of all the feelings. It's just not words and it's just not like, hey, let's change the curriculum. Like this is real life. Like if I say I'm hungry, give me some food, good food, organic and vegetables and fruit, please. But like, give it to me. Don't say, oh, you'll be okay. Just take your time, wait a while and it will come. I can't wait for the tree to grow. There's orchids everywhere. Give it to me now. And I just want to piggyback on that because slapping that right there. So this is the thing that really kills me too. White educators, if you only knew the power that you can like bring into yourself to be that white male teacher to actually interrupt racism and be like, nah, man, that's not going to happen. When kids and even kids of color hear that, it's like, what? You know, white or women educators. You know, you could be so empowered by using that because the white female voice is the loudest voice and they listen to it. You know, so just imagine if you're a white educator and you start interrupting and you're addressing it and you're like, no, this is actually, we're going to examine this. Oh, I'm having horrible feelings about this. I'm uncomfortable. Start expressing yourself and modeling this to the children. And that also decolonizes the classroom because we've always been like, I'm the professional and you're the child. No, we are a community of learners. So we all get together in that circle and we learn together. So white people, use your voice because you're also teaching our white students to start interrupting it with their friends and in the classroom so that you won't even have to do it as much because they'll start perpetuating it.
We can take our defenses down too, Catherine, right? We can say something, and also if something is said to us, we can see that as the act of love that it is. Because if your colleague gives you feedback, that means they trusted you enough to not retaliate against them. It means that they care enough about your relationship that you will listen and you will take it in, right? Like how many things have not been said because of those defensive reactions, and we can just eliminate that.
Well, here's one thing, Juliana, just from what they just said. My lovely white people, be as bold as those idiot invaders, insurrectionists about storming that Capitol. Go about this change like them. They're wacky, but you know what to do. So have that same energy. Okay, be a call.
All right, that's my girl Stephanie. So give her some props in the chat because man, she said it and she stood by me the whole way while others were just kind of disappearing. So when the district put out a call for BIPOC educators to help lead in this once in an opportunity anti-racist, anti-bias, anti-racist summit, a lot of us jumped at the chance because for once they were asking for us to speak. Not just to clean up a mess, but to shape something. I thought maybe this was the moment, right? Maybe I could offer what I've been doing for years, but in a way the system will finally recognize. Prior to the summit, I created a Google form, not a petition, as they said, not a campaign. I was just saying, hey, I do this work. Do you want me to do this in a bigger role? You want to work individually? You guys want to collaborate? But instead, this was seen as an initiative. They saw it as an aggression. They turned my offering into a threat. They claimed that I was forcing my way into leadership. And that right there, that twist, is the tell. Because when a Black woman dares to lead with vision, clarity, and structure, they don't see leadership. They see a mutiny. I wasn't mapping a future, but they only know how to hold power by protecting their positions, not by expanding what's possible. So I finally started to see the larger pattern, and everything blew up. Someone within my district shared it with some very vile white supremacists who then went on a barrage of trying to expose me for something like I did something wrong. And so we got the Fox News that showed up. You had Turning Point, The Sun, and then you had PM, which I didn't even know what that was. The New York Post, something called Critical Truth. And then it eventually got to the UK, which really blew my mind. This is a small city in a little state. What was going on here? But even the UK had to say something about it. And then what eventually happened was that the truth came out. The leader in this position had said, this is no longer optional. So what you're looking at here is what happens when the truth is told in a space that wasn't built to hold it. This is me plastered across white, well, yes, white, but right-wing sites, twisting into headlines, turned into national talking points. All I did was respond to a district's own call for BIPOC educators to lead, to speak, to share our truth. I wasn't staging a protest. I got surveillance, and then the headline came, or headlines. And they said I called white racist pedophiles, which really said a lot about themselves. They said I was abusing children by teaching truth. And they said Stephanie was suggesting violence, which I did not pick up on that. What they didn't say was that our superintendent months later, in a Zoom meeting with BIPOC educators, proclaimed that anti-racism isn't optional anymore. I was impressed. And it was implanted in my brain, and it came out of my lips in a different way, but it was still the message. What came was a storm of headlines. It became the story, not the broken system, not the racist policies, not the students being harmed, just me. The pattern was loud and familiar. What a woman of color, so it makes a woman of color face the fire, then blame her for the burn. So it hurt to be thrown under the bus, only to watch the one who did it, who said it, get applause for being brave. They needed someone to take the heat, and I was disposable enough to carry it. But the same words I said, the ones that got me attacked, became a badge of courage for someone higher up. That's what racism does. It changes the rules depending on who's speaking. It rewards proximity to whiteness, even the work of resistance. I wasn't just hurt, I was exhausted, I was erased, and I was right. He said it first in private, I said it next in public. Only one of us got to pay for it. This is how I experienced it, and I don't know what he intended, but I know how it landed. I'm not here to accuse, and I'm not here to shame. Maybe I am, but I'm not doing anything disparaging. I'm only speaking my experience. This is to protect my ass, okay? But if you guys will notice, it says the district does not condone the violence of destruction of property under any circumstance. That's not what my girl was saying at all. And with this being from Fox News, there was no statement to be needed because we all know Fox News is not a legit news place, right? And so eventually they said that I didn't speak for the district. Okay, cool. But why did you even speak to Fox News? And so they added that being a teacher in the district, a member of planning team for this particular summit, she has no official role in the equity efforts of the district. And then so when PDE asked, which is like the Parent Defending Education, right, about the potential bullying of faculty, the district maintained it was trying to become an anti-racist, anti-biased school district. They said that we promote an inclusive environment where we reject bullying of all kinds. I received bullying at a career level I had never experienced. I was always pushing the levels. This is not my first time I was in the news. You could Google me. But it just was really crazy the way that this was handled. And one person was just held up to being this miraculous person of actually doing the work. And meanwhile, behind doors in meetings, I was facing bullying left and right. So by this point, we weren't just emotionally done. Our bodies were saying it loudly. Stephanie and I asked for restorative justice. The district said no. They claimed it would cause blame and shame, as if we hadn't already been blamed and definitely deepened shamed by the fallout. When real safety was on the line, there was a delay in notifying the district's deputy sheriff. Protocols weren't followed. We were exposed, and they called it a process. And when we asked what plan was in place, they turned it around on us. What do you want? They asked, as if in a time of trauma and panic, we had anything except help us. Let us have some time away. These death threats were coming to our schools. I got death threats from my house. The calls got to the point in my own school that they had to stop answering the phone. But I was supposed to know what to do and what to tell them how to protect me. And so we were expected to recover and to rebuild and create the solutions with no transparency, no plan. And that's when my body just said stop, because the system clearly wouldn't. We asked for emergency mental health leave. We explained what was happening to our bodies, to our minds, to our families. We were denied. They said we could take the little sick days that we had, but this wasn't just being sick. This was harm. This was trauma. Our families were scared, and we were scared. It wasn't until the union stepped in that we were finally allowed to stop working and try to heal. And then the union had to fight the district to get coverage because our union was paying for that leave and they needed that reimbursed. 6 weeks passed before I could even breathe again. But by that time, my nervous system had collapsed. My joints were on fire. I couldn't sleep. My hands shook every time I joined a Zoom call. And still they asked us to keep going, to take it as personal stress, not systematic failure. But our bodies knew. This wasn't just a burnout. This was our breakdown. So once I stopped managing everyone else, no students, no parents, no admin distractions, there was nothing left between me and my pain. And we know the body keeps score. I hope you guys have all read that book. And mine had a record. I knew I carried trauma from an abusive childhood, but I didn't know what 20 years in the system had done to me. When the mask finally broke, everything rose to the surface. Like a nerve ending with like nerve endings like tooth roots exposed to cold air. Throughout my life, I wore the mask so well. They gave me small awards. I kept going on through college, through teaching, through motherhood. But under every mask, There was another until I couldn't feel the air, the lights, the bells, the sounds, the emails. I trained myself to ignore what hurt. The only time I truly breathed was on the weekends, but it wasn't rest, it was collapse. And then the pressure broke through my body. I cracked a tooth. It's small, but it wasn't. It was a moment that I realized my body wasn't just tired, it was done being used. As the dentist pulled my tooth, I remembered what we were never taught, and I learned on my own. George Washington didn't wear wooden teeth. He wore the stolen teeth of the people he enslaved. Black people. He actually had their teeth removed before they could even deny it. They were property. We've always been used, recast as tools, symbols, labor, made to serve even in our pain. And now, because I'm autistic, because I'm mixed, because I have a Black son, I was used for show, not for purpose. Some praised me in public, but when the heat came, I was disposable and they disappeared. So I did what so many women do, what so many survivors do. I left in the night. I took whatever pieces I could carry, and I tried building something no one else could own. My tooth, it's proof. It's what they didn't get to rewrite. I don't work for that storm anymore. I am in an amazing school, online school. I am living my best life. This is where the masks break. This is when even the body refuses to comply. This is collapse as evidence. This is grief with roots. Y'all okay? It was a lot. I'm loving this though. So I got this for you guys if you want to discuss amongst yourselves. All right. So now we are at the reckoning, all right? The reclamation, things that we have heard and read in historical documents of people rising up against the systems. And now it was my turn. So this next part isn't just about my story. It's about the turning points we all reach. When we stop performing safely, we stop asking permission to be whole. So I want you guys to ask yourself, what have you survived that deserves to be reclaimed? What part of you has been waiting for the mask to drop? You don't have to answer these out loud, but the reckoning doesn't just belong to me. It's waiting for all of us. Within this, I realized I was not alone. Some amazing people came to my side. I might be going a little fast to these people because I have a lot of people that I didn't really think I had people, even though they were there. But I've always been so independent.
Pass on to everybody what I'm about to say. Couldn't be no world disasters. Would change your joy and laugh to tears and pain. What I want the world to know is love. Stay in need of a loving day. Don't be late. Send yours in my way.
All right. I wish I could be a DJ and learn how to do all that smooth stuff. But hi, I'm Catherine Watkins. All right. So we got lawyers because it was clear this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. And the only way to fix the system or to make some kind of situation happen is to make the system flinch. And so we wanted to put it on public record. And we knew what we were facing, but how many other teachers of color, had been doing this work quietly and just either got pushed away or whatever way that makes them disappear? And so this wasn't about revenge, it was about reclamation. for me, for Stephanie, for every teacher too scared to speak, and every student who deserved better. Now let's talk about the part nobody tells you about when it comes to suing. What justice looks like when it becomes an invoice. Don't be impressed by the number. Stephanie and I, we split it. When then a third went to our lawyers. They were worth every penny. A third went to Uncle Sam, who still profits off of our pain. And what was left, that third of our half, that's what we walked away with. And I always say that racism is expensive. Seeing part of my settlement taxed was a bitter pill. I had to pay taxes on my own discrimination. But this was never about money. It was about putting it on the public record so that no one else had to go through what Stephanie and I did. If it makes them think twice about discriminating, good. If it doesn't, then at least we set the precedent so that the next person can reclaim their time with some solid help to let them leave without worrying how to keep a roof over their head. This isn't about winning. It's about returning to myself, to the truth, to the parts of me that were buried under survival. The settlement isn't salvation, but it gave me breath. And now this field is mine. I plant what I choose. So my son inspired this. He has asked, what if it hadn't happened? What if I hadn't collapsed? And the truth is, and I hate to admit this, but I probably would have kept going, kept grading papers with migraines, kept ignoring the pain, keep disappearing under a system that said I was too much and not enough at the same time. I stayed for him because I had a child to raise, because I wasn't going to let him fall back into poverty that I crawled out of. But collapse cracked the mask, and it made me finally able to say no, not just to them, but to the version of myself who I thought was disappeared, and that I wasn't good enough, because it was being said with every rejection that I faced. And that collapse, it gave me my mind back. I found a therapist who helped me to return to myself. I went from four prescriptions to one. From disassociating through dinner to being fully present with my son. From being broke and broken to debt-free and starting over with a paycheck that feeds my soul, my spirit, even if it doesn't impress my tax bracket. Charter schools don't pay well. If this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have never sued my employer. I would never have created shadows and syncopation. I would never have stopped zoning out around the people I love. I would never have known that joy isn't a reward, it's a reclamation. And I would have never seen my son become part of the healing now. Because now, he's not just my reason, he's my co-builder, helping others in his own way, carving out softness for himself and the generations coming next. So yeah, it had to collapse because I wasn't surviving and I was being erased. I used to think survival was the goal. Now I know continuing is the miracle. This is me and Moses, still moving, still making, still showing up. Everything I used to pour into my students, I now pour into shadows and syncopation, into every ritual, every reflection, every safe space that lets the masked be seen. I didn't collapse to be rescued. I collapsed to reset. Now I write at a level I never could before because because I was too tired to feel it, let alone speak it. My rhythm was off. I didn't like what I was writing. Now I say yes to events I never had energy for. Now, not because I'm performing, but because I'm present. I created the organization I needed as a mixed race, neurodivergent person, and for others like me who are looking to see their reflection in a pure mirror. I offered what I needed most, writing guidance, educational healing, creative connection, and soul level inspiration. This is our after. This is what rebirth looks like. Not polished, but honest. I am not who I was, and I'm not where I was, but I'm still here, and I keep going. So I'm gonna drop this in. Hold on. Copy. Okay. Ooh, oh my gosh, y'all, I was so worried about the time. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a little something because the clarity came that allowed me to actually write my own poem. Y'all know those I am poems that we have to write sometimes or have our students write and just get a whole bunch of crap and I hate them. Well, I ended up deciding not to do that, but then I ended up doing it. So I wrote an I am poem. I want to make sure I have to stop because I want it to be where I'm stopping sharing. So y'all got my full space. I'm still using something here. All right. So this is the first time I've read this poem. I've read it to people outside my friends, my family, but I've never. But I've learned anything. But if I've learned anything through all of this, it's that our stories deserve to be witnessed while we're still here to tell them. So now I'm going to let you know where I'm tuned in from. Feel free to drop in the chat anything that resonates with you guys. This is for the ones who fought. They had to collapse in silence. For the ones trying to hold still in a storm. For the ones still looking for language. So this was never about just one moment, not one job, one lawsuit, one breakdown. It was about finding the doorway back to myself, even when I was masked, even when I collapsed, even when I thought I'd lost too much to begin again. So my poem is called, But If You Still Need Labels. You know, I've been telling and telling y'all who I am, but still, you're here, wasting my time. So let's begin. First and foremost, I am neurodivergent, tuned to the hum beneath your words. I am empath, unwilling to feel this shit no more. I am educator, schooling you from the beginning, and I am student, constantly decoding your ways, a language never built for me. Loud and proud, I am gender fluid, shape-shifting to survive and thrive. I am unapologetically queer, unruly and reverent in my weird. I am mixed, like bloodlines braided through storms, not confused, not exotic, not a box you can check. I change the narrative and still they call me tragic. But I am what survived. I am what returned. I am what they tried to name but never could. I am Black, not because they said so, but because I know so. I am Papa Alegba's disciple, holding space at every crossroad. I am unnamed indigenous, tribalistly wandering in practice and stories. I am Coyote Woman with laughter and lessons in my bones. I am trickster with full seasoning, caught up in the absurdity and enjoying the challenge, forever hoping you'll choose wisely and still mending my heart every damn time. I am Griot, keeper of the scene and the sound. I am Oracle, even when silenced and seething. I am Witch, mixing grief with medicine and power. I am Daughter, unwilling to continue her trauma while wishing her well. I am mother, learning to love in ways unheard, protecting the lineage and the dream. And sis, I'm always preacher, singing your praises, because salvation ain't no solo act. And I want you there too. I am cyborg and now laughing crone, dangling on fringes of frequencies prophets scribed long before, while spinning between sanity and genius. I weave circuitry tongues through glitches and grief, stitching silence into signal to make the system say amen. I am light bender, code breaker, pattern seer. I am edge walker, prancing the line of liminal brilliance. Now, if you knew me back then, you were watching a cocoon. I swallowed the lies and mendacity. This is all I got left after the burning, scraped from the bones they said I didn't have. So when you ask me who the fuck I think I am, just know I'm Catherine motherfucking Watkins, and I rise in forms they don't even have language for. So, oh my God, was that there the whole time? You guys, okay. Anyways, so thank you guys so much for an awesome experience. I am going to be looking over all of the chats because this was part of the reclamation. I needed to tell my story. It took 5 years to get here. And I don't want anyone to have to do that for so long. And so if you're seeing that people are struggling, let them know that I'm here, that I've created something for them, and then I got lawyers. Woo, I got lawyers, and they're ready to play. It's going to be a little hard with the current administration that we're dealing with, but Stephanie and I have set a precedent. And so we have another teacher who sued the Portland School District, and he alone got 460,000 from that district because of their racism. So it costs them, and it needs to keep on costing them because it's this labor is not free anymore. It should never have been free. And so I thank you guys all for joining me and allowing me to do this healing moment for myself. I just feel so light after this. And so I thank you guys so much. Reach out to me. Let me know if there's something I can do for you. And let's continue working in community. Thank you so much, you guys.
And we thank you for, as somebody who's currently going into this, like this reaffirms to me the universe always provides, and that just I don't want to underestimate the harm, right, that this causes. And I think you brilliantly and beautifully and vulnerably, I don't know if that's a word, demonstrated that who the fuck do you think she is, that girl, that woman, and that is something that I think a lot of us resonate with and needed a reminder of today. And so I'm just so grateful for you and Stephanie and those of you who are currently going through these issues with your employer. And it's just great to be in good company. And it's great to have now, I feel like, a mentor in you and Stephanie, and showing the way of how to love ourselves and take care of ourselves and advocate for ourselves and advocate for those that we love. So I just want to thank you so much for being here today. You didn't talk too fast. It was beautiful and timely. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, and thank you so much to Teresa and Carlos. If you guys hadn't created this, I would have just kept on my slow tracking on my organization, but you guys hyped me up so much where I was like, I gotta come with everything. I've been like actually broadening what I'm doing with my organization because you guys have just been inspiring me. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, a huge shout out to Teresa and Carlos for creating this amazing platform and opportunity for us to be us and do some of that unmasking in good community. Speaking of Carlos, at 4:30, if you all want to hang in for 20 more minutes, I encourage you to do so because Carlo is that person. Style as Rebellion, and it's our closing ceremony with Carlos and Janacia Francis. And so, yeah,
We're
take
gonna
a
have fun.
it's gonna be fun. Carlos is always a good time. So we're gonna have fun. We're gonna close out in an amazing way. Let's celebrate this amazing week that we've had. It's just been so beautiful. Thank you so much. Anything, Carlos, Teresa, that you want to add that it didn't say before we leave?
I just want to say thank you again, Catherine. We've been like in virtual community all these years. I think we just realized it was since like 2017 when we were in an IRL community event, kind of like a little bit like this one long ago, and have been, you know, virtual friends since then. But just so appreciate you coming in and sharing your story. Really appreciate how you share so vulnerably and courageously, and how much that helps other people who are going through similar things, who can't always find the way to share that or feel like they might be the only ones. And just as a mother of children, and especially of biracial children, how much it means to know that you are out there creating that space and creating that light for our kids in whatever way you can, where you can, because it absolutely makes a difference. And just
Yes, I want to help all the babies, all the mixed babies, because you shouldn't have to do this on your own when it's 2025. We've been having mixed babies since the beginning, right? Either through rape, through love, through whatever situation, and yet we still can't get it together for mixed race folks. And they make us go to the dominant race rather than our multitudes.
thank you. All right. I put a link in the chat if you want to come back in about 17 minutes. That will be our final closing out session of the entire 2025 Global Summit. We've been to, we got a serious Portland representation, but we also have been to Scotland, Italy, London, Lisbon, Cairo, Bogota, Colombia, Mexico. We've been all over the world this week, and it might be kind of late for those other time zones, but for those of you who can make it, we'd love to see you there. I put the link in the chat, and thank you for being part of this community. Really appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
All right, have a good night, everybody.